Good morning, how are you?
That's good.
Until about 3 hours.
Um, well,
I'm still having to be talking.
oh,
Pretty much. I mean, I have. Good.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Landon, I'm sorry for your loss. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Actually, it's a little bit of a difficult day for me. My ex-husband is dead, and there's the memorial service today.
Today is the perfect, yeah. I'm sorry for your loss. I called you the other day. I don't know if you got my message. Did you get my message?
Well, the other day, Rabbi Davidson called me because he had bar mitzvahed Stephen 60 years ago, and he bar mitzvahed our son 20 years ago. So, I mean, we have a lot of history with this temple. You know, I think my in-laws joined in 1952 or 3.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I'm
we've
sorry.
been around. We've been around a long time.
Yeah.
Anyway, hi Mel.
Loss.
Hi. How's the schmatter business going?
yeah, it's been a while.
I've retired from the schmata business.
Fine.
Thank you.
But you knew the fashion business, you knew what fashion business was.
Good morning, Silvers.
Right, but they usually work schmatter business in Omaha.
Yeah, not, but are you using it in the sense of like a shirt or a garment?
Alicia, please. You need to get me one of the prayer books, the one that says weekday.
I worked in the Empire State.
Yeah, I was.
Thank you.
Oh. I think you in New York is involved in the schmatter business.
That's only two.
Where?
So you put the
Yes,
money
yeah,
there.
put the $5.
Okay. I'll go across the street.
Morning.
I'm gonna go. Everything okay with Linda? Is usually here today?
She's in London.
Oh, well then, yes. Well, then that would be a good reason.
Carousing in London.
Yes, Linda would be definitely carousing and. Linda the carousing. And more power to her, she's carousing in London.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, we didn't have our Zoom yesterday.
He's no longer. He's in better shape than we are. Let's forward that. I also received the stands. In practice, in our high school place. That's what. But jumping around, I think so. And then I'm saying that, yeah, a lot of the teams aren't happy about player because they get injured. But not during the game. I know it's like. Oh, they didn't get her injured during the game.
Yeah.
Not working, no.
It's sort of like friendly fire.
What'd you say?
It was like friendly fire.
But I may have to call up Sandy.
In,
You.
when I first. In Atlanta. He. My school. And he did that actually here. But yeah, you know, when they have some parts of the. Very cool. No, it is amazing when it happens to ship someone that you bring. Now here, I know.
All right, everyone.
I don't know. We like adding books when we can.
Boker Tov, everyone. Good to see all of you.
Good to see.
Okay, actually, we're going to say our blessing. Just remind you that we have Rabbi Stoller as our scholar in residence this weekend. Friday night, so tomorrow there's a congregation dinner at 5:30. And then Rabbi Stoller will be speaking in service. So I hope you can come and register for the dinner. It's going to be a great dinner by our maker. And then on Saturday morning, Rabbi Limmer will be teaching Torah study. And we'll have our service here at the Atrium and Kiddush lunch. Please do come. I think you'll enjoy it. All right, so let's start with our blessing. Baruch atah
Adonai Elohim melech haolam asher
B'tzivan la'asot.
asot b'divrei Torah.
So let's turn to page 32. We're going to move on to the next piece of liturgy. In the Siddur, so page 32. So to notice where we are in the service, remember we have the like the menu bar over on the right margin and in the left margin of the left page. So on page 32 and 33. And I can't remember if I had talked with you about this before. The layout of Mishkan Tefillah, our prayer book, is in the main, though not exclusively. It gets confusing when it's not this way. But in the main, it's set up as each prayer is a 2-page layout. So the Hebrew prayer, kind of the traditional Hebrew prayer, and the English translation of the prayers on the right side. And then on the left side, we'll have interpretive poems or selections of, about the prayer. And it's designed this way so that when we're praying from the book, we can choose what we want to do. Do we want to do, the prayer in Hebrew? Do we want to do it's faithful English translation, or do we want to do something poetic? So when you see on the menu bars on the far right and far left margin, on the right it's in Hebrew letters, on the left it's in English letters, tells you where we are, and this is all the same prayer, Asher Yatzar. You see that's highlighted in the black, Asher Yatzar. Okay.
In the middle.
Right, okay, so it tells you, so right above it was Matzavu, that's what we did last time. And then Asher Yatzar is the prayer here. Now, Asher Yatzar really kind of works in tandem with the prayer that comes afterwards. So structurally, I just wanted to show you this. If you turn to page 34. Page 34, you see Elohai Neshama. And so the themes of these two prayers work together. Asher Yatzar is a prayer about the body, and Elohai Neshama is a prayer about the soul. So these two work together because they speak to what in our tradition is kind of regarded as, broadly speaking, the two dimensions of a human being, the physical and the metaphysical, the body and the soul. Okay, and both body and soul are essential to who we are. So as we study these two prayers, we'll dig in a little bit about kind of Jewish philosophy and teachings about body and soul. But they're both essential to who we are. So I say this when teaching this with kids. I think it's kind of a simple way to understand it. So think about, like, if you only had a body but no soul, you'd be an empty shell.
Yeah.
Right? You only had a soul with no body, you wouldn't be here. Right? Okay, so our body is what enables us to be in the world and then participate. And be in the world. If we don't have a body, we can't interact or be present in the world. On the other hand, the soul is like the animating feature, the essence, the intangible who we are. Mind, body, spirit, all the things that you can't see or feel or touch about a human being is the soul. And if we don't have that, a body would just be a corpse. So both body and soul are essential to our being. This actually plays into, when we get further on into the liturgy, in the Amidah, and we talk about the concept of resurrection of the dead, which is in the Amidah. We'll look at something that talks about this explicitly, how body and soul are integrated with each other. And you need both of them. So let's go back to 32, and we're gonna spend time with Asher Yatzar. So let's read it. Would someone like to read it in the Hebrew for us?
Your mouth is full.
Your mouth is full. All right.
I'm gonna read it.
Okay, Mel, go for it.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yatzar et ha'adam v'chachma.
Pause there for a sec. So it's pronounced b'chokhmah. Now, the reason for that, this is a little bit technical Hebrew, but if you look at the vowel that's underneath the chet, in chokhmah, you see it's like a bold. You tell that on the page. It's the little T vowel that makes the ah sound. It's called the hamatz, but it's in bold. Sometimes you'll see, so it's actually it's a slightly different vowel. Instead of making the ah sound, it makes an o sound. Called hamatz katan, and it makes an o sound. So in books, when it's supposed to be o, it'll either be like bolded or a little bigger than the other vowels, but just to point it out. So that word is chokhmah instead of chachma. Chokhmah means wisdom. Okay, go ahead now. Keep reading.
Actually, this should be sung, right?
Well, it can be sung. It can also be read. Yeah, go ahead.
Ubara bo nekavim. Talurim. Galu v'yalu lefnei kisei kovodecha. Sha'im יפתח אחד מהם, או יסתם
Isatem.
אחד מהם. אי אפשר להתקיים ועמוד לפניך,
Lefanecha.
ברוך אתה אדוני רופא כל
Whole, notice again, it's the bolded vowel there, so it's a whole, yeah.
באשר
Basar.
בשר ומפליא ועזור.
Good, nice job, Mel. Right? Courtney, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm looking at it as actually it's almost like the exalting understanding of God is like the ooh, ooh is like a beckoning. Looks like an owl, think about an owl call, or like a relief. And if you look at the duality of the body and the soul,
Uh-huh.
God is sort of the body and the soul, and we say about people who are good, who knows what's out there, they're a shell, there's nothing there. And the body is actually the vessel, and where it says, by many pathways and openings, it's like showing, it can be absorbed, like human spirit, and God's presence can be absorbed in pathways and openings.
Okay, very nice. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about the Hebrew language in there? For a moment? Okay. So let's look at the English. The English translation. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who formed the human body with skill, creating the body's many pathways and openings. It is well known before your throne of glory that if one of them be wrongly opened or closed, it would be impossible to endure and stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh, working wonders. Baruch atah Adonai rofeh kol basar umafli la'asot. All right, so Courtney offered a nice comment on the meaning there. Other thoughts on the on that prayer? What strikes you about it? What's interesting? Shelley, go ahead.
Something that it just occurred to me. So our emeritus Rabbi Karen Kadar, when she talked about Matovu, and I don't think we talked about this, she would lead a discussion about how Matovu also talked about us, that we are the vessel, we are the sanctuary that creates, we come with a willing heart. And it just struck me that, of course, this is immediate Matovu is immediately followed by the prayer for the body, which is our vessel for expressing how we move in the world. We move with gratitude. We move with, first of all, you have to have awareness before you can even have gratitude, that this body that we move in every day, we can take for granted. But this blessing does not let us take it for granted. They point out that we're made by Adonai. So that's what struck me this time looking at it.
Very nice. Thank you, Shelley. What else? Other thoughts? Lee?
Am I right in remembering, this is what, Rabbi Reagan?
Yeah, you're right. You did teach that. Yeah.
And yes, usually we look at this, when we've done it in the Hebrew or read, the more direct English translation. But I think a lot of us really were more comfortable with a bit of the, that everyone is a little bit different and that it's okay to be different. The more interpretive translations. I remember that a number of us in the room felt that that the interpretation spoke was better in that everyone, we need our human bodies to move, to be here. But that the uniqueness of each of us and the acceptance of the uniqueness of each of us wasn't important there.
I'm not sure I understand exactly what you mean when you're saying the interpretive. You're talking about the prayers on the left side?
Yeah, the one the songs that she brought,
Oh, yeah,
I remember, you know, in my case, that my son is gay, both sons are gay, but how hard it was for my younger one when he was in school. And that it took a good while for him to find a world where he was accepted.
so you're saying, so you like this, one on the left, on 33 at the top?
Yeah.
Well, so also, like I was saying a minute ago, the one on the right side is the standard prayer with its English translation. On the left side are poetic interpretations.
What are we doing now?
Well, we're doing all of it.
Oh, twos.
Yeah, it's two. Yeah, so really you have the way the book is set up. You have kind of four options. You know, on what to do for this prayer. The Hebrew, the faithful English, translation, or there's two poetic choices on the left. So Lee, you're saying you like the ones on the left better. You like the one on the left better.
In this case, yeah,
Yeah, that one at the top there. My God, I thank you for my life, body, and soul. Help me realize that I am something new, someone who never existed before. Someone original and unique in the world, for if there had ever been someone like me, there would have been no need for me to exist. I like that too. It's interesting though, that it's here because this Asher Yatzar is a prayer about the physical body. This one sounds to me a little bit more like it's a little more holistic than the physical body. Oh, interesting. Yeah, now go ahead.
I'm gonna give you a really unusual, creative, analysis, Rabbi.
Yeah.
I always thought that, and then, like, if your eyes weren't working or the other parts of your weren't working, no, there were times when you should not be listening. There are times when you shouldn't be looking. That's what it's saying. So your eyes should, you should be closed. Certain things you shouldn't hear. You shouldn't gossip. Your tongue shouldn't work. You should keep your mouth closed. That's what it means.
Wait, how do you get that?
Yeah. It says, if wrongfully opened or closed.
If one of them be wrongly opened or closed, it would be impossible to endure and stand before you.
What does that mean? It means you should be quiet. Your mouth should be closed sometimes. Sometimes it's
No.
open. Your eyes should be open and sometimes it should be closed. Sometimes you shouldn't be listening. That's to me.
Well, I think that's an important lesson. I'm not sure that that's the meaning of it in context here. It's like, if any of these things, were these openings or cavities were wrongly opened or closed, we couldn't live.
Yeah.
No, but it's not like if your mouth is wrongly closed. It's like if the orifices in your body or something, or the veins and the arteries and the different channels and so forth were blocked up or don't work, then physically you would die.
I always interpreted that, that's why I thought that. Today, sitting here.
Yeah.
I think another way of looking at it is you're wrongfully using your mouth or your.
Okay.
Away.
Yeah, you're wrongfully losing your mouth, and then what would be the using your?
Things you shouldn't see, and certain things you should not hear, certain conversations you shouldn't really be a part of.
Okay.
Or gossiping, talking, your mouth should be closed.
All right. Well, okay, so that's a nice lesson. I think that it definitely takes like some ethical lessons out of this prayer, but this prayer is about an expression of gratitude for the physical body. Okay, so for the physical body and its organs. So, it's great, I'm glad you see that in there, I wanna highlight the fact that the prayer is about the physical body and it's working. Okay, Vicky.
Yeah, I'm getting back to, I think, what the prayer that Lee called our attention to. And I remember the first time in one of those silent, that we have a morning minion, silent prayer, and I go through the Siddur, and I saw this prayer, and I thought it was just so beautiful, because when I read it, it was saying, very, I don't know the rest of you, but I'm always very, it's just always, it's that second voice, that noise that reminded me of the morning reflection that Shelley gave, that the different noises and whatever. But so when I read this, it made me feel, I think this is something we can read to our children all the time, because it's saying how special each and every one of us is, and that we're original and unique. So that encompasses whatever disability, whatever someone may feel is lacking. It's okay, because none of us is alike. We're unique, and that is to be valued. And I just think it's absolutely beautiful.
Okay, nice. Yeah, so if the traditional prayer kind of speaks about the body, working, and like kind of just the very delicate balance and precarious nature of the human body. It's like if any one thing is not working properly, then it hinders our ability to function. And here to stand before God in the world, the prayer on the left, the top, may be understood as inclusive of those with bodily disabilities or ailments or something, that like if you, I don't know. I love the prayer on the top left, but I'm not sure why it's placed here, I guess is my question. I hadn't thought about it until now, but I'm trying to see if I can if I can figure out in my mind like why the editors. Howard, go ahead.
Going back to the original prayer. What I find fascinating about it is that it seems in certain ways to be so primitive. I mean, I wonder how old it is. Because even, hundreds of years ago, people probably understood that there was stuff going on inside their bodies. Things flowing and not flowing. And so it's yet primitive, yet it's so profound. It's true. I mean, I'm thinking of the medical issues that Barbara and I have each suffered in our lives. And most of them involved one of these things going wrong. Just put it in the personal context, which honestly I didn't do until just now. But I realized that, the problems I've had are reflected here, and the fact that I'm alive.
Yeah,
Is reflected here as well.
very nice. Thank you, Howard. Elaine.
I'm just curious, I'm reading the one under the one we read. And to me, the words that are there seem more familiar, maybe from Shabbat.
Yeah, I read that one a lot. I like that.
But I've heard that,
Yeah.
those words more than the other.
Yeah, I think that one, on the bottom left, on Shabbat morning, I read that one. I like it. I think it's maybe a more colloquial version of the standard translation on the right. It says, "Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, with divine wisdom you have made our bodies, combining veins, arteries, and vital organs into a finely balanced net. Wondrous maker and sustainer of life, were one of them to fail, how well we are aware, we would lack the strength to stand in life before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of our help and strength." Yeah.
Seems to get more specific.
Yeah, I think it's a little, perhaps a little more colloquial. What do you see in there that's more specific?
I think it's just the words that I use, I mean, were one of them to fail, however, were where we lack the strength.
Yeah,
That if something's shutting down, you're not whole.
yeah, and like Howard was saying, I mean, the how well we are aware is a powerful line there, because I mean, it suggests awareness of the body, and like what Shelley was talking about a minute ago, you know, as a spiritual practice to being aware of your body. That's an important spiritual practice, you know, and you might think that spiritual and body don't have to do with the other, they're opposites. But what this liturgy, what our liturgy teaches, and the tradition, you know, that it represents, teaches that body and spirit, body and soul are integrated. And that, you know, that attention to the body is also a spiritual practice, just like attention to the spirit. Notice, take a look over in the English translation on the right side of the page. See if you can, what else can you draw out of that kind of about theology? Theology be, you know, being the role of God, the nature or description of God that you see there. Courtney?
I see right away, go down, the line from the bottom. Wrongly opened your clothes, but you have a very somber tone. As they praise you or being somber, the voice is lower an octave. And then also getting back to what you were talking about, work like sure, and why, my God, I think that, in my humble opinion, I think that's perhaps it's mystical. God is mystical. He's not completely understood. And the question why it's there, it's like the right side of the brain and left side of the brain, everything being hands that her mother's dance and blind. And I think there's so much to be questioned, and that kind of shows that dichotomy.
Okay, yeah, good, thank you. So let's focus here for a moment on theology in the prayer. Yeah, Howard, what do you see?
Standing before God. Stuff.
Yeah,
And in fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the words above the ark in the chapel translate to know whom before you stand.
yeah,
And so, you know, I guess we have, I mean, we certainly have this childhood notion of when you die and go to heaven, you're gonna stand before God and be judged, be asked to explain. But I think this also means that we're standing before God during our lifetimes.
yeah,
Every day, every moment. God is watching, and we are, and you know, we are made in the image of God, and we're supposed to be performing as God would.
Okay. Good, okay, yes, we're gonna get back to that, we're gonna look at some Maimonides in a few minutes about that, so let's put it in there. What else do you see, Lee?
Created.
Creative?
God being in God's attributes,
Yeah,
created.
yes, okay, so that God is the creator of the human body, so Asher Yatzar, that's like kind of the shorthand name for this blessing, because it's just named after the first significant words that are not, you know, Baruch. Well, Asher Yatzar means who has formed or who has created. So the theology of this prayer is that God is the fashioner of the human body. Okay, now that's also present in the poetic ones on the left side. And I think specifically in the second one, God has made our bodies, you know, according to wisdom. Now So this is, I just finished reading 2 books, which I'm gonna bring in here because there's some things I want to share with you for this class. And I think some of you would like these books in particular, those of you who kind of struggle with theology and the concepts of God articulated in the prayer book. So the 2 books, one of them is called After Disbelief by Anthony Kronman, Kronman. And the other one is called Religion Without God by Ronald Dworkin. They're philosophers. And their books are similar in some ways, different in others, but they both represent kind of what they're trying to articulate, a philosophy that they call religious atheism. Okay, which they say is different from just atheism. Religious atheism, as both of them, expound it, is a sense about the world and about life and so forth that there is, that there's there's some kind of objective meaning, to life and to the world and, the way things work and everything that's in there. It's imbued with meaning and enchantment and divinity, even though they also want to say, but there's not God, or at least they say therefore the philosophy doesn't require that there be a God. So that's what the books are kind of articulating. It's really interesting. But whatever Dworkin in his book talks about, both of them talk a lot about science. Dworkin talks about in physics, and I wish Stu was still here because Stu's our resident physicist. But Dworkin talks about how in physics, there's there's like a kind of a certain I don't know how he puts it. It's almost like there's this kind of sense that there's that symmetry is like a feature, an inherent feature of creation and of the world. Not say creation, but of the world, the way things work. That there's symmetry, and the physicists are when they kind of test the formulas and theories and so forth in part, see if it reflects like symmetry. We'll have to look at it. I'll bring it in. It was really interesting to me, and I think that the liturgy represents this idea of symmetry also, maybe in a little different way, different ways that physics does, but suggesting the symmetry of body and soul. Then when we get into the further on of 2 other prayers that work the same way in tandem, physical world and metaphysical world, that there's this symmetry that underlies like existence, symmetry between the human being and creation and all these things, and that within the body that there's this kind of perfect design, that it's not just random, I guess is what like Dworkin and Kronman both want to say, is that evolutionary science would say, well, it just turned out that how it is, right? But they say, yeah, but that's not quite enough. There's more to it than that. And the fact, the fact that everything is so symmetrical and works together and the way that it does, and it's like this intricate, systems and so forth, bespeaks something bigger than itself. So we'll look at some of them, but I think in this prayer, in the one on the right, it talks about God as kind of the fashion. It eliminates any idea that it's just a random way that human beings evolved to have this. God is the fashioner, and that God made our bodies, and then we use those bodies to stand before God. Okay, that element I think is missing from the second blessing on 33. It acknowledges God as the designer of the system. But it doesn't say anything about standing before God in life. And I read this one, it almost is like God is the designer of the system and then just sends us kind of forth into. And God isn't necessarily as present. In the bottom one of 33 is God is present in the bottom, in the one of 32. Yeah, maybe.
I think it does that.
It does it?
It said.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, it does say that.
It would say-
Strike that.
Yeah.
I missed it.
What you were saying,
Stand in life before you. Yeah, sorry.
the intricacy I had, when we said creative, and I was thinking, not only did he create us, but he fine-tuned us so beautifully, so intricately,
Yeah,
and when you look at combining veins, arteries, and vital organs, I mean, it's so specific,
yeah,
the beauty of it. And
yeah,
wasn't
the
that-
beauty.
Well, wasn't that,
Yeah,
it's funny because you were talking about atheists, but wasn't that one of the arguments of God? I mean, you said that at the end when there has to be something more. And isn't it also possible to not believe in God, but to still be a spiritual person? In other words, it doesn't have to be God, but it could be some kind of higher power, some kind of energy, some kind of force. Do you see that? I mean.
yeah. So that's the interesting interplay between, so Ronald Dworkin, he does talk about, by the way, he talks about beauty, like what you said, beauty in the physics and like, it points to something that is greater than the sum of the parts, or like it points to some kind of meaning that exists in the world. But Dworkin also wants to say, he does say that none of this requires a belief in God. I mean, that's what the book is about. So I can't we have to read through it and see how he develops that. But then there's another book that engages Dworkin's thinking and offers a critique, and it's like, and really says Dworkin is kind of being too cute by half, because like, okay, so he's saying like, he's describing, meaning and enchantment and stuff in the world and all this, but there's no God. But if so maybe it's just something, ultimately, God is just a word that's a stand-in for that something. Right? So it's a little hard to say that
Rabbi,
he's just
Rabbi.
talking about it using.
Rabbi, it's Glenda. Sorry
Glenda.
to interrupt you, but I just went through this in real life as my ex-husband lay dying in the hospital. They didn't have to take him off life support because the organs all started to fail. The kidneys, whatever else, the heart, everything. So
Yeah,
it's really true. You
Yeah.
see the human body and the miraculous creature that we are, and
Yeah.
how it is really a delicate balance.
right. Yeah, okay. So thank you, Glenda, for sharing that. I think you're right. And that's a powerful observation from your personal experience. So I'll bring in the Dworkin next week so we can look at it, and we'll stop talking about that for now. We have a couple of comments and then I want to get to Maimonides. Let's take Martha and Shelley. Go ahead, Martha.
I think when I see this prayer, we pray so much that it's become part of my life. And what it does for me is to have real mindfulness about the moment. It used to be that I took for granted even going to the bathroom, but yet now I'm very mindful of my body And I think this prayer has done that for me.
Very nice.
To really be in touch with all my sensations in my body and being in the moment, totally mindful. So this is what this prayer does for me.
Good, yeah, and this is actually a blessing to say when you go to the bathroom.
Yes, I know that. And I do
Yeah.
say it.
Yeah, hold on, I want to show you. Okay, so let me just show this to you. Martha, thank you. Excuse me. Let's just put this.
You could probably relate with the dog. After they urinate, like with our boys, we always say, oh, good boy, congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. All right, so this is from Maimonides. This is not the Maimonides I was planning to show, but we're gonna get to that. But here, this is Maimonides in the Mishnah Torah, his code of law. It says here, whenever one enters the toilet, before entering, he says, be honored, holy, honorable ones, servants of the Most High. Oh, okay, help me, guard me, wait for me until I enter and come out, as this is the way of humans. After he comes out, he recites, blessed are you, the God, our Lord, King of the universe, who formed man in wisdom and created with him many openings and cavities. It is revealed and known before the throne of your glory that if one of them were to be blocked or if one of them were to be open, it would be impossible to exist for even one moment. Blessed are you, God, who heals all flesh and works. So there's the prayer in the halakha. When you finish going to the bathroom, you say it because going to the bathroom, I mean, it's the most animalistic, mundane, human function. And yet the liturgy here, suffuses it, with God and tells us that that whole act is suffused with divinity. And like Martha was saying, that to say that one of the functions of liturgy is that it draws our attention to things. And so, it reminds us, it cultivates mindfulness. So the halakha says when you go to the bathroom, you can say this prayer. So you can just print it up and put it in your pocket. And then when you come out, you got something to say. Okay, transform the bathroom activity into something holy. Because it is, because if you couldn't, if it didn't work, you would die. Or you would have to go on dialysis or whatever it is, and eventually your body would shut down. Right? Okay, Vicky?
But is that really with halakha and holy mitzvot, isn't it really to sanctify what we do, like even eating and prayers and so forth? All the things that are really mundane and that we take for granted, it's a way of sanctifying it by saying the prayers, by putting it in, yes, we're animals, essentially, we have to eat, but not just to eat, not to make it an animalistic kind of activity, but to say that this is coming from God. If it were not God, if it was not for God's blessings, we would not be able to eat, we would not have the food, and always to put it on a more holy level.
Yeah, definitely. Shelley, go ahead, Shelley.
I'm curious, you started our class talking about how the prayer book is put together. And so it says that the first morning blessing is Moda Ani. Thank you for returning our soul to us. I mean, it's very short, right? So my question is, why doesn't it say soul and body? Because if you didn't have your body when you wake up, you wouldn't be able to praise anybody for the soul. I'm just curious, is the body this longer prayer for the body and then the long prayer for the soul? Is it longer because a special attention has to be paid to this, or we couldn't even keep praying if we didn't have that? So I'm just wondering about your thoughts on that.
So with we're going to read the Maimonides that talks about that. But let me look back to Moda Ani, which
And it was there.
yeah, no, I know, but there was more. Okay. Maybe not, I was thinking of something else. Never mind. Okay, yes, but Shelley, what you just got at in terms of, the purpose of the body. Is something that Maimonides elaborates on, so I want to pull him up here, just yeah, just a sec, guys, in my comments. And we're gonna go to Maimonides Mishnah Torah. One of the challenges when something comes to my mind. And during the discussion. I have to find it.
You need a good index on there, Rabbi.
Yeah. Yeah, here it is, found it, okay. Found it, guys. All right, so let's look at, this is Maimonides Mishnah Torah, his magnum opus code of Jewish law. Here in this section, he deals with the physical body. It's the, let's see what he says. Since maintaining a healthy and sound body is among the ways of God, for one cannot understand or have knowledge of the Creator if he is ill. Therefore, he must avoid that which harms the body and accustom himself to that which is healthful and helps the body become stronger. Okay, let's pause there for a second. So he frames, I think, the ideas in Asher Yatzar in a little bit of a different way, but I think he's getting at the same idea. What do you see here in that first paragraph?
Could you put it on screen, Rabbi?
Sorry, yeah, let me do that. Go ahead.
Okay, so we could look at it again, sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
The optics of it, like there's just so much, there's so much there, each being so rich in context. That, and I think the body is too. You know, and it does, I don't know exactly, it's like I'm not quite sure, but I think that's not like we're not quite sure about our Creator and the existence of him.
Yeah. Okay, good. Look at this clause. Yeah, Lee, go ahead.
He's telling you to avoid that which harms the body. Now, we can avoid smoking cigarettes or drinking to excess or eating certain things, but as we age or sometimes, heaven forbid, a young person, you know, there are things that the body does that we really don't have a chance to avoid. It is.
Yeah, that's true. So Maimonides, though, who is a physician in addition to a philosopher and a scholar of halakha. So he's a medieval physician, so you know, you have to take that into account, but he gives, this chapter here is a whole program for healthy physical living. Okay, and he's saying that it's important, first of all, it's worthwhile and interesting to note that he includes this in his law, this is the laws of the Torah. So like taking care of your physical body isn't just something that is good, it's laws of the Torah as he sees. Okay, he says maintaining healthy and sound body is among the ways of God. You cannot understand or have knowledge of the Creator if you're ill, if your body doesn't work. Okay, so for Maimonides, his view of kind of the whole purpose of a human life is to know God, That's what Maimonides is all about. Okay, and that we know God by perfecting our intellect, by studying the Torah, engaging in philosophy. So we can climb higher to a knowledge of God. And what he's saying here is that you can't do that without also having a healthy body. Okay, so that part of the whole enterprise of knowing God and performing, you know, and living the way that God wants you to live requires a healthy body. So you need to do everything that you can in order to maintain a healthy body. That's where, in Asher Yatzar, if the body wasn't working properly, it would be impossible to endure and stand before you. Is how he's framing it. So let's see what he says. They are as follows: a person should never eat unless he is hungry. Oh, I violate that one all the time.
We all do.
Nor drink unless thirsty. He should never put off relieving himself, even for an instant, and violate that one too. Rather, whenever he feels the need to urinate or move his bowels, he should do so immediately. One should not eat until his stomach is full. Rather, he should stop when he's eaten to close to 3/4 of full satisfaction. One should drink only a small amount of water during the meal and mix that with wine. When the food begins to be digested in his intestines, he may drink what is necessary. However, he should not drink much water, even when the food has been digested. He didn't know about drinking 8 glasses of water a day. Or whatever.
Don't know that we need 8.
Yeah. One should not eat until he has checked himself thoroughly that he does not need to relieve himself. He should not eat until he has taken a stroll, which is sufficient to raise his body temperature. Alternatively, he should work or exert himself in some other way. The rule is that he should engage his body and exert himself in a sweat-producing task each morning. Afterwards, he should rest slightly until he regains composure and then should eat. If he were to bathe in hot water after exerting himself, it would be beneficial. Afterwards, he should wait a short while and eat. One should always eat while seated or reclining on his left side. He should not walk about, ride, exert himself, subject his body to startling influence, nor take a stroll until the food has been digested in his intestines. That's like, wait 30 minutes before you go sleep.
That's
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Ellen, anyone who takes a stroll or exerts himself after eating brings serious and harmful illnesses upon him. Okay, he should, 24 hours is sufficient for a man to sleep a third, 8 hours. These should be towards the end of the night so that there be 8 hours from the beginning of his sleep until sunrise. Thus, he should rise from his bed before sunrise. One should not sleep face down or on his back, but on his side. On his left side at the beginning of the night, on the right side at the end of the night. He should not retire shortly after eating, but should wait some 3 or 4 hours. That's advice, like don't eat right before you go to bed. One should not sleep during the day. Laxative foods such as grapes, figs, mulberries, pears, melons, certain types of cucumbers, and certain types of zucchini should be eaten first before the meal. Don't eat them together with the main meal, wait till they've descended from the upper stomach, da, 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 da. Foods which are constipating, such as pomegranates, quinces, apples, and crustaminian pears, should be eaten immediately after the meal and not in quantity. A person who desires to eat poultry and meat in one sitting should eat the poultry first. Okay, so all these kinds of prescriptions, it's long, but he goes on, he talks about avoiding, let's get to the part. All right, there are foods which are extremely harmful, and it is proper that one should never eat them. For example, large fish that are aged in salted cheese, which is aged in salted truffles and mushrooms, meat which is aged in salted wine from the press, cooked food which has been left over until it produces an odor, and any food with a bad smell or any very bitter taste. These are like poison to the body. There are other foods which are harmful, but their harmful effects do not compare to those first mentioned. Therefore, a person ought to eat them only sparingly after intervals of many days. He should not eat them regularly as his main fare. And then he gives all these examples. So anyway, he gives a whole program for taking care of your body, exercising, eating, all of this stuff, sleeping, because, and this is critical, a healthy body is needed in order to serve God. So for Maimonides, unlike, let's say, Greek philosophy, the body is not an end unto itself. It's not take care of the body so that you look awesome. Right? It's not do all these things so that, you can feel good or live long. Yes, but ultimately the end is so that you can serve God. Okay, yeah, Courtney.
I think in reading this is very Milton. And I think that God eating, like, there's always an allowance for God, if the 3/4 full, to allow that the quarter that's left over, or to just urinate a random before eating. It's like gentlemen go before have bagel here. But it's, I think also there too is like it becomes a cavernous, and that's the area that God is actually filling up.
Oh, okay, right. We're filled with
Rabbi,
God.
can I,
Yeah.
Rabbi,
Hold
this,
on.
what Rambam is saying, it is scientific. For example, if you drink, which something I am mindful, to drink water with the meal, because it dilutes your gastric juices and you cannot digest your food well. The other thing is about the fruit. Before, the fruit takes less than an hour to digest in your body. So if you eat, and meat takes about 3 or 4 hours. If you put in the meat before the fruit, then the fruit that goes on top putrefy, and you do not receive any health benefits. Sleeping on this side at night, because the left side is where you have all your digestion process, and the sleeping at night certain hours, each hour that you sleep, the body, certain organs regenerate. For example, 11 p.m. to 12 is the heart, 4 a.m. is the liver, and that's why it's so crucial to sleep those nights at night. And that's why people who work nights have difficult time and often develop illnesses. So this is pretty scientific stuff. And yeah.
Thanks, Martha. Wait, Alfred, go ahead.
Yeah, I suggested, you said we gotta digest the food, then exercise. May I make a suggestion? I think it's better to exercise before you eat.
Oh, yeah, that's what he said. That's what he said. Yeah, exercise before you eat. Yeah, now, so Rambam here is, he's a physician. He lives in the 12th century. So, his prescriptions represent medieval science for sure, but in terms of understanding, his method, which is, I think is very interesting, is that he his approach is to bring the knowledge of contemporary science into, to help us understand the Torah better. And he's doing that here, okay? So the Torah, of course, when you read it in the Torah, doesn't talk about these things in Genesis. But he learns from the tradition of interpretation and the liturgy and so forth, that the body is a vessel of God, a creation of God, and that the body exists to help us serve God. And then he brings to bear his knowledge of contemporary science so that to help to teach us how to optimize our bodies so that we can serve God. Now contrast that with in the world today, there's lots of stuff out there. You go anywhere. I mean, optimizing the body is all over the place. People are obsessed with optimizing the body, but not because it helps you serve God. Right? You can optimize the body so that you can run marathons. Optimize the body so that you look great in yoga pants. Optimize the body so that whatever else, that's today's society, and it's similar, I think, in a lot of ways to Hellenistic culture, where the body itself was almost like an object of worship.
Because we can create it.
Because we can control.
Right.
I mean, well, we can't, like Lee points out, of course, there are limits to our control, but I think the stuff that is out there, and there's another great book, I'll make a reference, we'll look at it probably. Actually, it would be good for this segment. It's called Strange Rites, by Tara Isabella Burton. And she talks about different forms of religion in the world today. Like she argues that that religion is not only conventional religions like Judaism and Christianity and so forth, but that other things have taken on the character of religion in modern society. And one of those is wellness culture. Okay, and so she talks about wellness culture. It's an obsession, in our society, and it's got halakha, right? You eat this, do this, don't do that, all these kinds of things. And it's first of all, it's self-centered because it's all about this. It's like worshiping the self. I mean, really, just optimizing your physical being. And also it's something that gives us a sense of control. And that's important in religion and other things. I'll bring that book into. Yeah, Bonnie.
At the bottom of page 33. And I think that's it all in a nutshell. We all need to count our blessings.
The little notes at the bottom. Why is it important to pause and count our blessings? Because of the human temptations to pray only prayers of asking for something at those times when we are aware of the pain and the unfulfilled yearnings in our life. We can only begin to accept the all of it and affirm that life is worth its price if we lift to consciousness all the good in our lives. Very nice. All right, so we'll leave it there. Next week we'll pick up. I'll bring in some of this other material to discuss as it relates to the body. All right, everyone, have a good day. You're welcome.
Everybody have a good day.
Amazing.
Yeah.